Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, the latest on White House meetings with leaders of Israel and Ukraine as the war in Iran spreads to include other countries. Also tonight, we look at the city of Phoenix's new workforce and business hub, and an ASU researcher focused on water insecurity is elected to the National Academy of Sciences. Those stories and more next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. An increasing number of countries are being drawn into the fighting between the U.S. and Iran, with Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Lebanon, Jordan, and Egypt now in some way involved in the conflict. This as the White House hosted separate meetings this week with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. For more analysis on all of this, we welcome former U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Kurt Volker. Ambassador, good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Great to see you, Ted. Thank you for having me.
Just from the intro, there is so much to talk about right here. Let's start with what seems to be an expanding war in Iran. What's your assessment?
Yeah, I think that President Trump wants to show the Iranians that they have to back down. He wants to amass enough countries, enough support, maybe Arab-Israeli reconciliation, attacks on Iranian proxies in Iraq, to get the Iranians to stop fighting and agree that the Strait of Hormuz will be open. That's what he wants. Now, the problem is that the Iranians don't want that. The Iranians want to control the strait. It's going to be a future source of power and revenue for them going forward. They'll hold everybody hostage. So they're not going to give that up easily at all. And they're daring President Trump, go all the way, see if you want a big war in the Middle East, see if you want regime change. You're going to regret that, is basically their message to him. So, President Trump is trying. He's trying to turn up the screws, but he doesn't want a big war. The Iranians are going to stare it down.
U.S. and Saudis joint airstrikes against Iranian militia in Iraq. That's four countries I just listed right there in that one statement.
Yeah.
I mean, this it's nothing if not expanding. But you're saying that expansion may be necessary in order to talk sense into the Iranians?
Well, necessary. What President Trump is looking for is something that is not all-out American war of regime change against Iran, but still effective enough to get the Iranians to stop the fighting for now, promise not to have a nuclear weapon, even if they're lying, and agree that ships can go through the Strait of Hormuz freely. That's what he's trying to achieve, something that's not all the way and also not capitulation. The problem, as I said, is that Iran is ready to stand its ground and claim the Strait of Hormuz. And they are attacking their neighbors. You mentioned some, but there's many more. There's Bahrain, there's Qatar, there is the UAE, there is even Oman. Iran has been willing to attack most of them to get them to put pressure on the U.S. to stop the war. So it is a game of chicken, if you will, with the use of force as part of it.
And Ukraine reportedly recently struck an Iranian cargo ship. Ukraine now looked. These two, and we're going to get to the war in Ukraine here in a second. But these two conflicts, is there a threat that they could mesh together?
Well, they have been meshed already for a long time. Remember, the drones that Russia uses to attack Ukrainian cities and civilians every night are Iranian-made drones that were then given to Russia, and now Russia produces them on a license. And then Russia has improved them in terms of speed and noise and maneuverability and given them back to Iran with its technology to make them more effective against U.S. forces. So they're already working together. And think of the geography as well. Russia has the coastline on the northern part of the Caspian Sea. Iran has the coastline on the southern part of the Caspian Sea. So when you say an Iranian cargo ship, what is that? That is likely to be weapons for Iran at this stage, or Iranian weapons for Russia. One or the other. I think the Ukrainians just said, we're going to take it out. And that is now reminding everybody that these things are in fact linked.
Linked, but maybe low-grade fever status right now. How likely that this could explode?
I don't think so. It could. Obviously, we always have to be on our toes, but Russia is pretty much at the limits of its capabilities right now, except for nuclear weapons. And Iran is very much at the limits of its power projection capabilities. It's not at the limits of the regime. The regime will stay in place and suppress their people, and they can harass their neighbors with a missile here or a drone there or attack on a boat. But they don't have much power projection either. So this becoming a real global conflagration or all Europe, all Middle East, I think that is unlikely. But I do think that we have to recognize that we're dealing with two countries here, Iran and Russia, that are very actively working together because they are working against American interests.
Real quickly, the meetings at the White House this week, one with the Israeli Prime Minister and one with Vladimir Zelensky, the Ukrainian president. These were behind closed doors. We don't often see President Trump going behind closed doors for any of this kind of high-level meeting. And I just wonder, what do you think came of this, especially regarding Ukraine and the Patriot defense systems and whether or not we're helping them? Do we have enough to help them? What do you make of it?
Yeah, so great question. First off, I have to give credit to President Zelensky and Prime Minister Netanyahu. They've learned that it's not always good to do the press in front of the meeting with President Trump. Talk about things privately. Save the public portions for thanking President Trump and do what you have to do in private. I think they figured that out now. That's very positive. As far as what the content of the meeting was, we know a little bit from President Zelensky's interviews with Axios and some tweets. And basically, he said they had a great meeting. Very important to say so. So we had a great meeting without some of the emotionalism of the past. We know what he's referring to there. And he said, we talked about air defense. Now, what Ukraine has been offered by President Trump is very important. It is the ability to produce Patriot missiles for their air defenses in Ukraine under a license from the United States. That helps the United States because it takes the pressure off our stockpiles. It helps the US companies. It helps Ukraine. It'll even help our European and Gulf allies. So that's very significant. What's missing in this is immediate delivery of missiles because the Ukrainians are getting pounded night after night and they're hitting civilian infrastructure. President Zelensky asked for a winter emergency package, meaning give us enough missiles, if you have them, to get us through the winter. I don't think President Trump is very enthused about that because he doesn't know where this war against Iran is going to go. And we may need them. Our Gulf allies may need them. Israel may need them. So that's why I think he was leaning into the licensing. I think that is the way it's going to go. And I have some faith in the Ukrainians that with the right technology and components, they'll be able to make these things pretty quickly.
Real quickly, the relationship between President Trump and Zelensky, is that changing?
It has changed a lot already. Everybody remembers the Oval Office meeting 18 months ago when it turned into a shouting match, and it was an absolute disaster. And I do think that President Zelensky mishandled that. Now, 18 months later, they've met many times. They have a good relationship. I thought it was very noteworthy when President Trump sat down with Zelensky at the NATO summit in Ankara 3 or 4 weeks ago, where he said, I like this guy. That to me was a signal to the far right in the US, the MAGA movement. It's okay to like Zelensky. It's okay to support Ukraine. That was very important.
Before you go, real quickly, you attended the funeral for Lindsey Graham. A lot of people in the U.S. here, we have a certain vision of Graham for what he used to think about the president and how he wound up thinking about the president. Longtime friend of Senator McCain, as you were as well. Just your thoughts real quickly on the legacy of Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, well, Lindsey Graham, people say that he was inconsistent sometimes, criticizing Trump, supporting Trump. But he was always consistent about supporting freedom, democracy, America's allies, including NATO, including Israel, and strong national security and willingness to use American power in order to maintain that strength. He was very consistent about that. And that was true through his years with John McCain and then more recently. And I would point out that he was the only person in the Senate who was both a very forceful supporter of President Trump and a very strong advocate for strong national security policies where he disagreed with President Trump. And it's hard to see now who in the Senate is going to have that relationship to be able to disagree so strenuously.
Kurt Volker, former U.S. ambassador to NATO, it's always a pleasure having you on the program. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Ted. Great to see you.
On the ground, you got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
We mean to be a part of it. We mean to lead it.
Angle has landed.
There's this whole universe out there. I want to find out how far we can go.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
When this showed up, I was so excited.
Oh, it's like opening a present.
Please turn the page.
Sometimes you just want to celebrate
America's new birth of freedom.
It's a dream that I thought would never happen.
Let's do it!
It means that anything is possible.
That is a perfect recipe for anything.
That's only part of the story.
Everything looks absolutely stunning.
Innovation 27 is the City of Phoenix's plans for a new workforce and business hub. The goal is to offer career training, trade skill programs, and small business support, along with a place for residents to build their future by connecting with employers. Joining us now is Phoenix City Councilwoman Ann O'Brien. Good to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So give me a better definition of Innovation 27.
Well, I think it's important to start with how it was founded. And there was a community member, Jeff Spellman, who runs the VIP Coalition of Phoenix, who worked with City Councilwoman Betty Guardado, Mayor Kate Gallego, as well as City of Phoenix staff to reimagine what the northwest corner of I-17 and Northern could become. It had been a Kmart for decades, and then it had been shut down. So they imagined this workforce development and business hub to help get high school students and residents job skills so that they could have high quality jobs.
Yeah, I was going to ask a future workforce and business hub. What exactly does that mean?
So it's a place where folks can go, high school kids can go and take classes and get help with resume development, adults who need retraining for future careers. We have a lot of great partners here. We'll be partnering with Arizona State University, Northern Arizona University, as well as the Maricopa Community College District and WestMech, which is a high school for joint technical education.
So when we talk about young people, residents building new skills and these, how young? I mean, you got your high schools, you got your trade schools. Where does Innovation 27 fit in with all that?
I think it fits in right in another this is another location for us. It's right off of I-17 in Northern, so you have public transportation as well as accessibility to the TSMC campus, which is just about 15 minutes north on the freeway, as well as many of their suppliers in the area.
Career training services, does that include maybe apprenticeships?
So initially, yes, it will include some apprenticeships and training for specifically the semiconductor and chip industry. That will be phase one. Phase two will include construction as well as HVAC, electrician, and eventually veterinary sciences.
I was going to ask about veterinary care. It sounds like some future veterinarians are going to come out of this.
I hope so, right? It's another area where we have less people going into those fields.
And digital literacy for adults. That one rings a bell as well. I mean, just so you can figure out what's going on with the phone, huh?
Well, yes, your phone, right? Use an iPad or maybe just your television.
Yeah, yes, we got a problem with that. But I mean, did you just in all things, adults, this is adult learning in many respects.
It is, and it's an opportunity for folks to retrain for a high quality career, everywhere from the kids to the adults. And that's such an important thing. We're working on making it as low cost or potentially free for folks. Down the line, there are plans for daycare, because if you are an adult, that can be a barrier to you learning new skills for a high quality job.
Indeed, indeed. Career supportive services, what's involved there? I mean, just career navigation, I think, would fill a building. I mean, talk to us about that.
Right. Well, this will be a place too where we can do job fairs. We can help folks with resume development, interview skills, and just looking for maybe jobs that they don't know about. I joke all the time. My mother would have been a great what do I want to say, writer for Google and AI and prompts, writing those prompts. That wasn't a job that was around when I was young, never mind when she was young. So it's finding those jobs that are available now that weren't before.
And again, you referred to this earlier, talked about the way it started and everything. Was there a best practice model to look at? What, beyond the inspiration, what else was looked at?
We knew what was coming, right, with Mayor Gallego had been a huge part of bringing TSMC in that industry. So I think we realized we needed to provide workers, right? We want our residents to have great jobs, and we want the employers to have a talented work pool. And so this does that. And when you combine those two things, it means other companies will come and invest in Phoenix because they know they can get great employees.
You talked about 3 different phases here. Where are we now? What's the time frame?
So we're under construction right now. I think they showed a picture earlier of what it will look like, but they're under construction. It's beautiful so far, but it will be done, the first phase, in spring of 2027 with an opening in fall of 2027. We're excited to have Gessler as the architect, and then Chase Construction doing the construction of the building. So it's an amazing location, beautiful views, and that place to be proud of.
That was a Kmart, huh?
It was a Kmart. Kmart I shopped in as a younger person. My parents shopped there.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to see what they have done so far with the building.
All right, Councilwoman Ann O'Brien, Phoenix Vice Mayor, huh?
I was Vice Mayor last year.
So you're not the Vice Mayor
Every
anymore?
year we change Vice Mayor. It's very confusing for everybody, but...
All right, I need to cross that off on my list. Good to have you here, though, and congratulations on this. I hope the best for it.
Thank you so much. We're excited.
You bet. An ASU researcher focused on water insecurity has been elected to the National Academy of Sciences, one of the nation's top scientific advisory groups. The Academy produces expert reports that help guide federal policy and scientific research. And here now is that new member of the National Academy of Sciences, Amber Woodich. She's from ASU's School of Human Evolution and Social Change. Let's just start by saying congratulations. How do you feel about it? Well, how did you feel when you found out you were elected?
I was shocked and thrilled.
But were you were surprised?
I was very surprised.
But you're a MacArthur Fellow. You're a big deal.
Well, a MacArthur Fellow is really awarded on the fact that you might do something good. But I was very surprised to find that my colleagues thought I had done something good.
Yeah, I see. So the National Academy of Sciences, again, advisory panel to the government, correct?
That's right. It was founded during the Civil War by Abraham Lincoln to advise the federal government on issues of science policy. And today it's expanded its duties. It advises Hollywood. It advises internationally.
Yeah, it advises a lot of folks. But your focus is on water insecurity. And we had you on when you won the MacArthur Fellow a few years back. And that was your focus then? Still your focus now?
Still my focus.
And what does that mean, water insecurity?
Water insecurity describes all the ways that people suffer when they don't have enough water, money to buy water, time to get water, or confidence that the water they have is safe to consume.
Okay, and with this honor, does that give a little more heft to your research? How does this change what you do?
Well, it's very new to me, so I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
But I very much hope that I'll have the opportunity to share the amazing work that we're doing here in the state of Arizona to guide future policy and help people have better survival outcomes when water's scarce.
Talk about what we're doing in Arizona and how that might apply.
Yes, so anybody who reads a newspaper knows that Arizona is frequently focused as being the sort of difficult site for water. But what people often forget is that we are historically a site of extraordinary innovation. So when I fly into an airplane into the city of Phoenix and I look down at those canal systems that were created by the Hohokam and still used today, I feel such inspiration. And that spirit of innovation continues on through the residents that live here today.
And with global warming and with drought here, there, and everywhere, I mean, changes are needed, are they not?
Absolutely.
What kind of changes would you like to see? And what kind of cooperation would you like to see? Because again, cooperation is needed, because without cooperation, no one gets water, no one's here.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, as an anthropologist, one of the unique ways that we look at the world is that we want to make the world safe for human diversity, and we want to use the lessons of 10,000 years of settled human history to inform how we live today. So when we acknowledge that things are going to have to change, and that might be scary, we can look back through human history to gain inspiration about what we might do differently or better. And one thing we know today is that people can be quite isolated. They're not cooperating with their neighbors because maybe they don't need to. They have safe water delivery in their home. We believe, working with communities here in Arizona and around the world who don't have enough water in their pipes or the pipes aren't working, that we're looking to a future where people have the opportunity and will likely work together much more.
The opportunity, but almost the necessity to work together.
Quite likely the necessity.
Yeah. How do you start at home? Do you simply start with conserving water at home, then the neighborhood, then the city, then the state, and on we go?
Well, what our research indicates is that while conservation is obviously essential, particularly in a state like Arizona, there are other things that households can do to make themselves more resilient. So one thing is to know your neighbors, because if you have a water breakage, going to your neighbor and asking for a bucket of water is the most common survival strategy in the world. Another we know is that as water gets more unsafe, people rely on their neighbors or their family members to haul water to them. So having someone in your household, maybe that has a truck or has the capacity to bring you water, is another really important coping strategy.
Where does quality of life fit into the equation?
That's a great question. One thing that our research is indicating is that when people have these rich relationships where they help their neighbors regularly, it vastly improves their quality of life. And their happiness outcomes, their emotional resilience outcomes are much improved.
So getting people to band together is a big aspect of what you're researching, what you're advising?
What my work really focuses on is what happens when things go really wrong.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
I see. So when they're not banding together and they're not being good neighbors.
Mainly when things are collapsing.
Yeah. So what happens when things are collapsing? What's your advice to people who come to you right now and say, all right, National Academy of Sciences member. What do we do?
Yes. So as I said, I think, the great message is that when things are collapsing, humans very reliably use their ingenuity and their innovation and their capacity for cooperation to get out of it. But, we have a huge advantage today, which is that we have extraordinary technologies like nanotechnology-enabled water treatments and other innovations that engineers are creating that help us bring together that social power with the engineering power and multiply its effect.
Interesting. Do you believe access to water is a human right?
Yes.
Not everyone believes that, do they?
I know. But what do we mean by a human right to water? I think that governance arrangements should prioritize people having enough water to survive. So that means the water they need to drink and bathe and cook food.
What do you say to those that say that it has a value, it has a price, and that needs to be recognized?
Oh, I think it is increasingly recognized that is happening, but we just need to remember that when water becomes more costly, that those who have the least purchasing power are least able to survive, and we need to have sort of pro-poor markets and other ways of making sure that people meet their minimum needs.
Well, Amber Wooditch, congratulations on the election there, and you're the go-to person now as far as water insecurity with the National Academy of Science. Good to have you here. Congratulations and best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Because kids will always be more curious, Arizona PBS delivers